once again, it feels like a fitting start is always Dear Diary when I open this video, because that's what it feels like. And it feels quite nice to get off my chest everything from the week, how I leveled up, how I was set back, what I overcome, what I learned, not only so I can document the process and see where I need to improve, also so I can share the process. And hopefully there'll be times where people can pick up picks or pick up tricks because I've paid the idiot tax, and hopefully other people don't have to do the same. I've done it already with fitness. I remember being that super skinny 15-year-old thinking, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much BS out there, and all I want to do is just work hard on not looking this terribly skinny, that when I have this information, I'm going to give it to people because this is horrible. And I've done that, and I did that. And it almost triggers those thoughts, because I thought this week, really, someone dropped me a message about my videos, which now I send off to an editor who's really skilled. And I'm happy that I've brought him on board, actually, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But someone reached out and they said, oh, I really like your videos and how you do them, and I know you said about using CapCut, and I've given him as much help as I can before because he's asked me questions, and I'm always happy to give out things like that when people get in touch, of course, because if it was the other way around, I would love it if someone answered, and people have done that to me. So equally, I always like to repay the favour, and even if that isn't the case, it's nice to be nice. It's good karma to put out there. So he comes back and says, oh, they look rubbish, it's nothing like yours, I can't do this, I'm not very smart, I'm not great at tech. And I was just thinking in my head, as much as I just want to go, oh, it's all right, mate, and that's loser mentality. That's all I can see that for. It's loser mentality to come back with that approach of message. If you reframe that into, I really like how you make those transitions so seamless, and that cool noise, what's that? Because that goes really nice as well. How do I kind of do that? Because I'm struggling with that. Is there any sort of tips you could give, or is there any things that you would sort of start with? I'd really appreciate any help. And of course, I always appreciate your time, and thank you in advance. Of course, I know you're busy, so get back to it whenever you can. You frame that question, you want to come back with an answer. You want to come back with, oh, actually, okay, maybe you can do this. Coming back with, this isn't me, I can't do that. Because it made me think, it wasn't me. I didn't have these skills, and I'm still not amazing now. I'm just better than I was at the start, and I'm better than most people are where they start, is because I've got 3 years of doing this behind my belt, and I've got 8,000 posts across all platforms, my fitness, my personal training, and my mixed martial arts. I've probably got around 8,000 posts. And you're looking at thousands and thousands of rubbish, and thousands of where I wasn't even being maximally efficient and leveling up as quick as I should or could have done, where it was just loads of rubbish for ages. But I thought, if I'm not going to do anything else, absolutely anything, if the bare minimum, the laziest I'm ever going to be is free posts on all platforms, then so be it. And sometimes I went weeks, and sometimes it felt like maybe even went months before I even made a slight change in anything I was doing, and just leveled up and actually thought, oh, actually, okay, can I extract some information from a page that's maybe in my sort of niche that I can learn from, or how can I up my editing? Sometimes it felt like I went months without even doing that and reassessing, where realistically it could even be an internal daily process. I feel like I went months, but the minimum I did was posted. So when you see that final product now, like I said, it's still not even amazing, but it's good. It's because you're not seeing the 8,000 posts before it. When a graphic designer, had you over a logo after you've given them a brief and they've handed it back 45 minutes later and they're charging £8,000, they're not charging you £8,000 for 45 minutes of time. They're charging you £8,000 for the 45,000 hours that went into being able to do that in 45 minutes. There's a whole difference. So when you're online and you're looking at the 0.01% of these people that are in media creation, or even the fighting game itself, whatever discipline, whatever realm, don't forget, you're exposed to the minutiae that is what they do, and there's so much going on behind that. And I think the more I think about that and see that in every skill, the more I realise there's just infinite opportunities to level up. And I've even just got off the call with Leo. He spoke about how he sort of is looking himself in the mirror a little bit and thinks, I can kind of do more. And I just explained how I've had that before so many times. Every time, realistically, I've never had a time that I haven't looked in the mirror and done more. Because as I said to him, it's not even necessarily an output thing where you have to be working more hours or going to travel different places, wherever that may look like. It can simply be from making that more efficient. Not even necessarily, it all goes back to weightlifting. If you look to make marginal gains and marginal increments, people always just think that's slapping weight on the bar. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You can add an extra rep. You can add an extra pause at the bottom. You can add an extra second to the eccentric phase. All ways of changing, but getting those marginal gains. And it's very much the same thing. And it feels like to me now I'm getting to a stage where things are starting to click a little bit more. I'm just starting to understand the game a little bit better, and I'm understanding the funnel nature that I'm creating within my media platforms to leverage a media outlet. And when I said media outlet, when I first came up with Casuals Corner, when I'm in the shower just saying, oh, Casuals Corner, media outlet, I didn't truly know what that meant. In truth, I don't know what that means now. Someone said, what's a media outlet? I quite literally just say someone that puts out media, but that's just, and maybe that's true, but that's a very simple, ignorant definition, I'm sure. But that's because I never really had a vision. But in truth, the vision was for it to be anything I willed or desired, or to pivot, or to go into any avenue or any lane that tickles my fancy, essentially. And I think one thing that I'm definitely doing better now, which excites me, is I am doing that. I am starting to pivot into doing a podcast and putting out my thoughts and my clips, and doing that in a way where I've paired with an editor now, that when I've finished recording on a Sunday, like now where I'm doing this video, I go back to my room, even though that I've had no sleep or no food pretty much in 3 days. I go back to my room, I sit down for 3 hours, I edit the videos into 10, 20, 30-second clips. I send them all over to him. He edits them, adds headings, text, videos, photos, sound effects, sound design, all these things, gets them back to me by Tuesday, Wednesday. I post and schedule them all by Sunday. And now I've got 20 videos done by Sunday night, effectively. So that's massive for me. And that's just how I thought I can get more efficient, coming back to what I said earlier. That's how I can get more efficient, by just putting in those 2 extra hours on a Sunday, even though I don't really want to, because now I can schedule all the posts from Monday and Tuesday, really, and that won't take me very long. I can now focus Monday solely on editing for GB Top Team, GBTV, and then I can focus solely on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, filming and editing, and then Friday and Saturday, I've got project work and I've got design work. And now when it gets to the weekend, my treat, my going out is having a nice dinner, maybe getting a quick stretch outside while there's sunlight, getting a nice coffee in me, and getting stuck into just some more fun design sides of the project, whether that's the food fighters clothing or the casuals clothing, or reaching out to suppliers in terms of clothing manufacturers, in terms of getting the screen printing done for a picture that I've taken. I want to get a screen print on a design, but I want the design to look its most poignant. So I need to get the method that does that. And because I've worked in the manufacturing business in terms of clothing, and because I've also spent loads of hours investing into researching it, I've had a conversation before with my friend's dad when we were watching the West Ham fan of all things. He said he owned a clothing business, Casuals Clothing, essentially it's called. It's called Casuals Printing, I believe. But it was a match made in heaven, and I entertained the conversation with him because I overheard him talking about work. And I don't know him that well, so he must have thought it was pretty random that I engaged. And I think initially he thought I was taking the piss a little bit, because I was asking these intricate questions about his work, and he was all a little bit taken aback. But I was genuinely fascinated, because I wanted to know what garms he worked with, if he supplied them, did they do embroidery, and did they do screen printing? Because screen printing, I've learned from working in a horrible factory in Hackney in the freezing cold from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m, freezing, no one to speak to, no music, and just packing t-shirts 10 times a day and spraying boards. That's how you get an intricate design on a print, is screen printing, and nothing quite does it like that. DTF doesn't do it like that, and just other sorts of printing don't really do it like that. So I've reached out to my friend's dad in regards to the clothing, because I've got a picture that I want to get on a hoodie, and then alternatively onto that as well, I enjoy this because I get to just drop everything that I'm doing, and the people that really listen just get to hear what I'm doing next. Because I've got a ton of projects. I don't necessarily always have the things in place to just put out and make content on necessarily yet, but I quite enjoying it through the medium of this. Or maybe I'll even chop this up and make some shorts as well. But I'm making some clothing now at the moment, which is Food Fighters, which I've created the design with. I worked with a designer, and I've got a nice little logo, which I'm super proud of. I actually couldn't be more happy with that, and that takes a lot for me to say, because most times I like things very minimal and just sharp and creative, with an essence of authenticity and flair and your sort of own vision and things. Very inspired by sort of Japanese design, that sort of way inclined. And I've always got, not necessarily always the clearest picture, but an idea of what I like. And I saw this first and foremost straight away. I said, I kind of want it like this. I want it like the heaven sign, the Japanese symbol, because not only does that pay homage to my love of the Japanese culture, whether that's design, whether that's in things like fashion, whether that's in things like creation or engineering, whether that's Audio-Technica that I've got on me right now, whether that's my Audio-Technica headphones, whether that's my Mizuno golf clubs, whether that's my love of the landscape and the nature and the beauty and the cuisine out there. And then it's also to homage to the Japanese culture that created martial arts, Japanese jiu-jitsu that essentially funded mixed martial arts. And then to top all of that off, I wanted an emblem which was in Karanji, I believe it is, because Max, one of my closest friends, speaks a little bit of Japanese because he too loves the culture. We share a common interest in that. So I go and look into the kanji and I look for a symbol that I like the design of, and maybe I can essentially make it work, because I wanted two Fs, and I know that there was a lot of designs that looked a little bit like that, and I find the perfect one, and I thought, that is it. I look into it. What does it mean? Heaven, by definition. So not only do I have the double entendre of the heaven with the food that we'll be creating, but also I can shout out the Food Fighters within the logo with the two Fs, but also I can shout out and pay homage to the Japanese culture and the cuisine, which inspires me a lot, almost indefinitely, whether it's the clothing, whether it's the food, whether it's my production, whether it's my filmmaking, whatever it may be. I'm heavily inspired by the culture, and it's an incredible culture that I'd love to go and visit. And a dream of mine really is maybe to go over and film with Tatsuyaro Taira in Japan, because that'd be a dream come true. I know he lives on a little island over there, and that'd be so fun to go out there and just create that journey, not only through the food, not only through the travel, but also the fighting. And wow, that's getting me excited even thinking about that. But that just, I guess that circles me back to what I've been up to really this last couple of days. I'll get through mostly because that's when the meat and potatoes is. Literally since Thursday night really, I've not slept, eaten properly, or even drunk much water. My mouth is dry as hell as we speak. Because on Friday I had Cage Warriors, which was an incredible event. And even being there was cool as always, being backstage and just being able to be amongst the fighters and see the nuance behind the shows and people coming out after the wins, seeing the jubilation, seeing the thrill, seeing the agony, seeing the pain, seeing people getting genuinely busted up. It gives you a different level and appreciation of the sport. Being that close to that highly skilled athletes is always a treat. So I always love Cage Warriors. It's always a fantastic production, and the skill level is always the highest, typically I find, outside of the UFC. It was nice to go there and feel more comfortable, because I've done it a few times now. So to go there and know people there, and for them to know my name, and we've worked together before and spoke together and follow each other's pages, and that was really nice and that was cool. And I also made sure that I saw a kid sitting by himself, and he sort of was a little bit cornered off and a little bit sort of hunched. His body language was a little bit closed off. And the reason I say that is because I've sort of been there a little bit. It's a little bit daunting. You go to the shows, maybe you're new to the sport or new to the media, or you don't know how to use a camera, or you've got a media pass and you feel like a fraud because you're buying this show at a big event, which is going to be on Fight Pass, it's going to be on YouTube, it's going to be on everywhere over Instagram. It's where the biggest stars come over, typically from the UFC to the UFC, sorry. So it's a big stage and you're going over there by yourself quite often, doing a job that maybe you're just learning on the fly. It's intimidating. So maybe I just misread it and he was just chilled and didn't want anyone to bother him, quite possibly. But I know that I really appreciated it when people came over and spoke to me and made me feel super welcome there, because people don't have to do that. They can get on with their job, they're at work and they can crack on. But it wasn't like that at all. There was no rival, like sort of competitiveness or you work for them. And it was so far from that. And I was made to feel super welcome that I felt like I had to give that back. I had to give that back. And I would typically always want to do that anyway, because you would always want to make someone feel comfortable in a position if you can. And I certainly felt more comfortable just because I've been there and done that now. And it sounds stupid, but it's almost like, obviously it's nothing like going and fighting in these organisations, but for fighters it's interesting because obviously being on your debut is such a big thing, because you don't know where the warm-up room is, you don't know where the workout rooms are for the people before this fight and that fight, or where to get your clothing or your gloves or your hands wrapped, or you don't know these new people, or maybe you're having to have more conversations or less, or all these new surroundings, all these new sensations, that it's just little mental things, gymnastics that you're having to do. And building up to a fight, I've heard Henry Cejudo say you want to do nothing, absolutely nothing. You just want to conserve all your energy for that moment, even in the walk-up. So now I've been there a few times, you sort of understand it. I walk through, I know the door to go, I get the wristband, I know the people, I go, hello, how you doing? It's nice to see you again. It's, lovely to be back, good to see the atmosphere. Oh, beautiful show, blah, blah, blah. Walk straight in, go into the back, know where I'm going, sit down, set up properly, know where everything is, know where the rooms are, where I can run to get spots and cool photos, where I need to angle myself. And I'm just making small mental notes so I can just get better each time. And I got in there that week and I had a notes in my Notion pad of angles and videos that I wanted, and I went in there with it in my head and with it on my phone written down. I was like, right, cool, I want these videos and these photos and these videos on my phone, and these in 16:9 and these in by 9:16. So I've got portrait and landscape. I'm going to use this for a long form, I'm going to use this for a short form. I want this angle. I had it all written down. I was prepared and I went in there, and now I'm starting to look at these things, and I'm not walking in there anymore with this idea of I'm just blacking it and, oh my goodness, I don't even know what ISO is on my camera. That's a true story. I'm in Cage Warriors and I'm on Google with no reception going, what is ISO? Because this thing is just spinning out and I don't know where to put it. And everything looks smudgy. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I'm just ruining everything and I'm wasting my time being here. And someone's going to want to look at the photos and I'm going to be able to send them back and they're going to be terrible. And all of these terrible thoughts are just running through your head. But I stuck it out. You look to get better. You look to improve. You look to talk to professionals that always just seek people that are better than you in absolutely everything and just try and absorb value from them however you can in any medium. And I started to do that with more photography. And now, instead of going in there as, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, okay, right, just keep an eye on everyone and keep your head on a swivel, because people are going to realize you're a fraud because you've got 40 followers on Instagram, you've borrowed someone's camera, you have no idea what's happening, you don't even know how to use focus, you don't know what ISO is, your shutter speed is way off, you haven't taken a clear, stable photo, and you do feel fraudulent. But what else are you meant to do? What's the alternative? Not do it? What's the alternative? There's no alternative. This is what I'm thinking as I just say that. There is no alternative. It's that or nothing. And you can sit at home, and I always put it back to fitness because it's true. You can be the skinniest, you can be the most overweight, you can have all of these things, but if you have a goal of, I just want to look a bit more like this, the only way to do it is to do it. Like by hook or by crook. You have to go into the gym. You have to look like an idiot because you're lifting weights wrong. And you have to do things badly. You have to pay your idiot tax. But realistically, there's only one way you're going to get better. Repetition. And by trying to minimize how many errors you make. And you can do that a few ways. You can talk to people you know. Maybe it's friends, maybe it's family, maybe it's friends of friends, maybe it's someone you know on Facebook, maybe it's someone you interacted once on holiday and you know they're into the fitness and you drop them a message, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok. We've got a million mediums. Listen to a podcast, whether that's a health podcast or more of a stoicism podcast because you want to level up the mindset to the fitness. A million and one options. A million and one options. And that's the same for all of these things. And I walk in there now and instead of having that, keeping my head on a swivel, I feel like I'm going to get dragged out of the event because I've got no reason to really be there. I don't know mixed martial arts, I don't know photography, and I don't know what I'm doing. I've just written a nice email and I'm here with a media pass. But now I think I'm a pro. I've switched my mindset. It almost, I always say it, but I take so much inspiration from the likes of Tom Aspinall. I hear him talk about switching his mindset from being someone that's skilled, being someone that thinks, yeah, I'm going to win a championship one day, to getting rid of all of that and just reprogramming to, no, I'm a professional and I'm going to be a champion and I'm going to engineer absolutely everything into being a champion. And that really inspired me, that just shift of mindset of me to just think, right, now I'm a professional now. This is a professional page. This is a professional mixed martial arts media outlet. This is a brand. This is an entity. And it's a layered approach to a media production in the mixed martial arts field, essentially. And that's how I need to view it. And that's always what I had the vision as. But maybe I guess you don't truly believe it. I thought I 100% did. And I still kind of do a little bit. Think that is how I felt 100%. But I guess until there's some form of feedback loop, some validations from something, I guess you never truly know. No one does. Realistically, it can sound and feel as good in your head, and the concept can be there and everything can be there. Everything can be in your momentum and your swing in your favour. Until it happens, it doesn't happen. And I think there's been enough for me now to not sit back and go, oh, cool, I've done this, or I've met this person, or got this interview, or done this, whatever it may be. Is the absolute opposite. It's to say, oh, okay, that's just the tiniest bit of spark of validation I needed to know I'm on the right direction. And now if there was any doubt, there isn't anymore. There is not anymore. Because when I first started, there was no doubt. There was absolutely no doubt. I was nailed on. I just thought, blah, blah, blah. But it's a long process. It's a long slug, and it's a long process. And when you're looking at 10 years in a game, and I was always comfortable with that timeline, but suddenly 16 months on of working a full-time job and doing this every day and just working a job you hate, getting up at 4 a.m. and going to Wales and coming back and getting in at 12 and then waking up at 5 a.m. And in between, you're just in this cramped car with people that are just like stuck up next to you, and you're just like, your hands are here and you're just trying to film a TikTok. And people are like, what are you doing? And they're just giving it everything they think about these videos and this or whatever. Maybe they even didn't, or maybe you're just in the zone and it's sweating and it's hot, you've got a fleece on, and then you're having to carry fridge freezers up 10 flights of stairs, and then you're just sat on your lunch break on a hard carpet with no lunch because you didn't have time to make it because you just wanted to go to bed earlier because you're so tired, because you're at 1 a.m. answering comments, and then you woke up, you're on this carpet, it's 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, you're thinking, I'm so hungry, I've not eaten, I've been up since 5, I feel nauseous because I got on the central line for an hour and a half. And now I've just got to do these flipping posts in the middle of the day. Or I'm just listening to podcasts to just try to level up and zone me out of what's happening. And I'm just having to do these hard, horrible, monotonous, manual labour things. And I'm thinking, I don't enjoy this at all. I don't enjoy this. But in my head, I thought that's what I needed to do. And that is what I needed to do, essentially. But then I realised, like fighters realise, you can't go professional doing one-a-days. And if you look at my content output each day when I was doing that, it was as high as it could possibly be for the job I was doing. On my walk to the station, I would be posting and replying to comments. From my station to the station of where it clouds internet, I was listening to podcasts and I was replying to comments. In the van journeys, I was replying to comments and making videos. I was posting videos. I was chopping videos up. I was doing via Lingo or whatever that app's called. I was just trying to sharpen my mind in the most dull and monotonous of environments. And when I finally just said, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do less work. I'm going to move to some PTs online, a couple in physical one-to-one settings, a little bit of money for that. And I'm going to do less of that, but I'm going to free up more time for my brand. That's when I leveled up. And then that's also when I said, right, now you've got no choice. This is like a full-time job and you have to treat it as such. And I've still had days where, like you do in full-time jobs, where you get home and you think, yeah, I didn't really do much today, did I? I didn't really do much today. And I have days like that, but I do the bare minimum. And the bare minimum is posting on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook every single day by putting a food video, a carousel, a short, a reel, and doing that on every platform every day. And that's the bare minimum of my work now. And that should be nothing. And that's why now I'm trying to get way more efficient, because now it's freeing up more time for my project. So I'm going hard on my food fighters. I'm going hard on my YouTube. I'm going hard on GBTV with GB Top Team. And I swear to God, I'm just understanding the game better, and I'm understanding my flaws better, to be perfectly honest. And I'm understanding where I need to level up. Obviously, speaking to my cousin, who's just having him as a mentor is super, super invaluable to me. It really is. As just an entrepreneur, and obviously someone so close to me, and someone that has so many similarities to me, just in terms of my life and my upbringing, that obviously I had this conversation with him before, and now he's incredibly successful and has done incredible things over the last 10 years with business, but has had adversity, but has overcome it. And I look what he's doing now and how successful he is, and I've seen the fruits of his labour, and also been fortunate enough for him to take me into that world and show me that and share that with me, which obviously I appreciate so much. But then, of course, to give his time up for me, and he's almost like his mentorship. Not only does he obviously have every care for my best interest, but he also has this just objective viewpoint of anecdotal evidence of tried and tested methods and reasonings and beliefs and understandings from the game. Like, why I listen to Alex Hormozy and get a lot of value from his content is where I get a lot from my cousin. I appreciate that so much. And I'm going to look back, I know, and I'm going to appreciate our conversations a lot. And where he made me realize I need to level up in my distribution and my distribution of the episodes and building the episodes up in Reddit and Instagram and also what would now be Threads. And I have done that, but tiny amounts, and I haven't done that enough, and I'm being transparent. I need to do that more, and I will do that more. So that's why I'm putting that sort of on the ink and that on paper, because I'm going to make a real concerted effort of not only doubling down on getting involved in Reddit threads and providing value, but also distributing content on there to provide value at the same time without just clickbaiting and spamming and whatnot, providing value into these communities. Also do it better on Twitter, which I am doing a better job of. I definitely am, but I can 1000% be doing more and more 16:9 clips onto Twitter. But also talking head over training videos and training footages, which I was saying to Leo in my podcast, does so well. Indexes one video nearly has 1 million views. It's just my ugly mug over a video of a training footage of Volk, just talking about how I see things going. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from people saying I'm new to the sport, or I got a message today saying I'm new to the sport and watching your video, I really appreciate what you do in terms of your content, and your food is amazing, but also your breakdowns. And for someone that's new to the sport and is more of a casual fan, it's really informative. And honestly, it was one of the nicest messages I ever got, because when I started this brand, that's exactly what I wanted to do. The same as when I was in the fitness world. And I was the scrawniest, skinniest geezer. And I just wanted to get to a level where I was in decent enough shape and to give information to people in a simple enough way for them to understand it when they first get into it. So they're not scared off by it. So they're not terrified. And so that doesn't create this massive barrier to entry. And now I'm getting sort of the fruits of my labour from sowing those seeds for the last 2 years of trying to do that in MMA, which obviously took quite a long time because I had such a steep learning curve because I knew nothing. And I still know nothing because there's everything to learn. But I know enough now, I feel, to speak concisely and to convey simple yet effective messages about fights or what fighters are doing. And I don't feel like, for me personally, I still feel like I only talk about what I know. So if I see something, deep down, I'm still only talking about that because I am confident that that is a logical read and understanding because I've got so much cross-reference data because I listen to so much commentary. I listen to so many breakdowns. I listen to so many fighters talking about fights that I can cross-reference knowing that, okay, he's going to be a wrestler and he shoots a lot naked with his takedowns. So realistically, you're going to want to throw attacks up the middle, whether that's knees, uppercuts, or teeps. But with teeps, you're probably going to have to be careful because he's going to look to catch a leg and get the takedowns. So maybe you're going to want to shorten up the attacks, but also maybe that's going to look for uppercuts and maybe more body work and closing his range. I can say things like that confidently knowing that's the right thing to say and that's a good read. I don't speak outside of that. And I still feel like I do that in MMA, and I feel like that gives... I've started realizing there's a beauty to knowing that you have... Often people get this imposter syndrome passing on knowledge because they think, I don't know everything there is to know about this subject, so I won't pass on any knowledge because I don't know everything, which is stupid. Because yes, you don't know everything, but you know everything more than the person that doesn't know anything. And the person that doesn't know anything knows exactly how much you know when you started, and you know how much it got to when you got to there. And now you can explain the difference from them. And this person isn't going to be interested in maybe the Luke Thomases of the world sometimes that are so in-depth, so complex, and so versatile in their breakdowns and their knowledge. But sometimes people are trying to compare with the Dan Hardys and the Luke Thomases. But they don't realise there's the beauty in appealing to the casuals when you're here. And sometimes when you get to here, eventually you get to here. And then you appeal to here. And it just starts to level up. And sometimes people even refine a brand, an image, and a voice where they build their whole way up to now they get to here, where they can now appeal to the masses, but also the niche as well, at the very 1%. So you'll get people that maybe like fighters will listen, but also casual fans. So that's a super interesting dynamic. And that really sort of wraps it up for me this week because I've got to go and now start getting onto editing. And I really feel like I'm finding a flow and a groove with what I'm doing. And it's getting me pumped up. I swear to goodness, it's getting me pumped up. And I want to shout out the guys that drop me messages from listening to this because it really means a lot. I really appreciate that. So everyone that messages me off the back of it, Louis, I know you always watch, so shout out to you for that. And anyone really that just sort of supports my page, I see it all. I swear to God, I read the messages. Anyone that supports my page frequently knows I reply to my comments and I'll reply to my messages, and I'm there to have a conversation. Whether you want to know a little bit more about how I got into this, or whether it's a fight you just want to talk to, because sometimes people don't have friends to talk to fights about. I'm always there. So I appreciate you for tuning in as always. This pretty much just wraps up another week of a Dear Diary session in the Casuals Corner. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting the journey. And I promise to you, those that are listening and those that are hearing this, or those that are watching this back in future years to come, it's not always going to be the fastest progression, but it will always be consistent. I promise that. And I feel like I'm getting more energy by the day because I'm not only getting more efficient, I'm loving the game even more because I'm starting to see things pay off. And now I'm starting to see a little bicep muscle after I've been a scrawny kid and I've never seen any muscle. I'm starting to see a little bicep now. I'm doing my curls at the gym after 6 months. I'm thinking, oh, this is addictive. And you hear people in fitness, they get addicted to those results because you do. And that's a healthy obsession. Sometimes you need to be pulled by some things. Sometimes you need to be pushed. And sometimes you can have both. And in this instance, it's not bad to have both. And that's how I feel. I feel like I'm just starting to see, you see what, a little ab appearing, a little bicep muscle in the mirror. at the David Lloyd that I'm getting for free because my mate works as a lifeguard, and we're just smuggling our way in, just lifting weights, trying to learn and lift our way through a good aesthetic, not knowing or understanding. It's probably going to take 10 years to look half decent, and even then you're probably still not going to love the way you look. You just have to get a little bit more used to it, but also get to a point where you're confident enough in it. And that's the story for another day. But as always, keep it casual. Love.